Hello and welcome to Upstate New York. I am Carson Cash, joining the booth once again with Ryan Blankenhorn. We have got ourselves one doozy of a game here after what has been a good fall break. Ryan, how was your fall break? What was the best thing you did?
My fall break was great, Carson, and I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I just need the break. I slept a lot. I slept a lot, y'all, and at the end of the day, that's sometimes all you need in life is just to sleep.
Yeah, and it's a good shout, as you might be seeing the foreboding presence behind us, Syracuse Overwatch. Jackson, one of the members there, main support saint. I went to Cooperstown. I tricked my girlfriend into observing baseball with me, so that's always a good weekend. But yeah, Syracuse Overwatch 2-0 right now, playing the 3-0 Ohio State Buckeyes. Syracuse Overwatch obviously had those two big wins over Utah and Boise State earlier in the season, and that's not something that you can discount. Those teams are rated 14 and 16 entering the season collegiately. They've now moved a little bit, and Syracuse now in that top 30, which I think they should be higher than they're giving credit for right now. But that's something I can't really change at all. I'm not part of that committee anyway.
Yeah, that OWCRA, They're an interesting group of people.
They're stingy. They're really stingy.
They really are.
They want to see continued success, and that I can agree.
Yeah, they do.
They have standards.
But it's well deserved. Syracuse finally finally in that spot, right? Last year after going to the CECC, and making that in general typically puts you up in those rankings. Not putting them there, and then after Syracuse came in, they beat Boise State 3-0 very dominantly. After Boise was thrown into the top 20 of those rankings, and then still not put in. And then they finally beat Utah 3-1, and then they're like, all right, maybe we should give Syracuse some credit, and much well deserved. A couple changes to this team, and they have come out swinging as easily one of the best teams here in the PEC.
Yeah, this team has just been electric so far. You talk about how good their offense has been on push and escort. They are very good at switching everything around. They're very good at forcing opponents to switch into whatever they're playing. They're adaptable. They can play around bans. You can't ban the Syracuse team out of a win. But we're playing Ohio State, who is now entering a little bit of an interesting spot as we had a patch today. So King Donut, the tank for the Ohio State Buckeyes, fourth in average kills per game on the PEC website. You can check in the stats there. They are very good. They have that, but the problem is that King Donut only plays Mauga.
Yeah, there's a lot of Mauga coming in from King Donut. Even last year at the end of the PEC, right, when Syracuse played Ohio State, it was a lot of Mauga, some Zarya as well, right? But at the end of the day, it was really just the Mauga. They tried to mirror the Orisa, but you can't beat Lunar on the Orisa. Probably the best Orisa here in the PEC by far, and they tried, didn't go too well for them. But Syracuse and Ohio State, they've been scrim partners for a while. At the end of last year, the start of this year, they were always playing up against each other. The scrims are always relatively even, and it's going to be interesting to see because both these teams have really excelled one another and gotten them to improve. And Syracuse, even though they've been able to sort of play up against how King Donut and the rest of Ohio State plays, Ohio State has also realized Syracuse is going to throw some things out there, and they're going to try to play us at our own game, and we have to make sure that we don't do that. And so these two teams definitely, I'm not going to say rivals in terms of that, but I will say definitely two of the schools that have competed the most outside of regulation matches, and it's going to be interesting to see on how both these teams sort of come out. One of these teams are going to come out with a loss. One of these teams are going to no longer have that perfect record, and it's a matter of which team that's going to be.
Yeah, Mauga got that patch note today, which buffed Mauga. In a pretty substantial sense. One of the abilities went from 100 overheal to 150 overheal, which is the, I believe, the main ability
that's the biggest thing.
Mauga. And then a big ultimate change, or I believe it's 9% shorter now. And that is it's a pretty substantial change. That cage ability is really good. It's something that you don't really expect at all. And I'm really excited to see just kind of how Mauga plays Cage now with, maybe it being like, I can be a little bit more free with this. I can use this more. But they're a really good Mauga team. We'll see if we ban Mauga in the first place, because that kind of just opens Syracuse up to dive if they do end up banning Mauga, but I'm not sure they're going to. They may want to see, hey, is it worth banning Mauga? Can we beat it like this? And if we can't, then let's switch it around. Obviously, Busan will be our starting map, as it is this week, or all season, I believe, for Game 1. It has been every single time. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right, is, if they're going to walk out on this Mauga comp, they're going to be forced into a double hit, right? They're going to be forced to play like a Zarya or a Ramatra, and they're going to walk that down with probably some sort of a Sojourn or Cassidy for that hit scan. And, Syracuse, they can play the double hit. They played it for so long against the Mauga meta, so it's not something they're uncomfortable on by any means, but they've also only really been playing dive recently. And so getting this sort of Winston Diva with the Kiri Lucio composition that Syracuse has been running that into this Maga where you might be forced into the double hit. Syracuse might need to just take a second to sort of refresh their memories on that if they choose not to ban the Maga. Because the other thing is, this is an interesting one. Back when the Maga was meta, what was the meta? It was Maga with Brig and Juno. Juno we have not seen.
Who both got buffed. Right?
Yeah, in a very long time. Juno, an ultimate buff though. 6% less on getting to that ultimate, and so Juno may have a place for Ohio State. She's still a very, very fragile, very, very weak character that can be shot down pretty fast, but at the end of the day, Ohio State could easily go back to this Maga Juno Brig meta if they so choose, and that's going to be something for them to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's something to really look at because, I mean, like you mentioned, it's if Juno has the survivability, if Ohio State can keep a not a great survivability character alive, then they will win this game. Juno's ult kind of, when they had that survivability, was kind of game-breaking in the sense of you had to have a Juno to counter it or you had to ban Juno. Syracuse really struggled with it last semester, especially against Ohio State. So we'll see what they can do. Obviously, this is a new team and improved wise with 3 returning players who are all on that upperclassmen level and then 2 new players who are also upperclassmen. We talked about Mac and B-Dog. Yep. Mac currently leading the PEC in average kills per game, 16.4. The next 2 are both Azer than Lunar with 16 and 12 respectively. So Syracuse has been off to a very hot start, but Ohio State filling up that 4 through 6 spot as well. So it's going to be a really good game. I think this might be a potential championship preview. Yeah,
and that's sort of the interesting thing, right? You think about schools like Boise State and Utah, the schools that, I mean, came in as already predicted some of the best collegiate programs in Overwatch coming to the PEC, and then you're like, okay, well, you know, schools like Syracuse, Ohio State, Kansas, that were good schools fighting for that second and third place spot against Boise, you know, now it's like, okay, now these schools may actually have something in their bag for that championship. Like you said, right, places 1 through 6, that's all taken by Syracuse and Ohio State, not a single Boise member or a single Utah member on that leaderboard. And so in terms of the killing potential of both these teams, very, very powerful players, very, very fast players when it comes to getting these kills and getting this value, but it's a matter of sometimes it's not just getting the kill, right? You can get a kill, but can you win the overall macro of that game, of that team fight? And especially if Ohio State walks out on Maga, you can lose a member of your fight and still win. So it really is going to come down to, can Syracuse, are they going to play for the kills or are they going to play for the macro?
Yeah, and it's obviously, when you see a team that wins those team fights, you notice that they have a lot of eliminations, obviously. And that'll come in Syracuse's support. Saint, the main support, who is also 10th in average kills per game, who has just been fragging really well. They play a really aggressive style, obviously with more of a dive meta team when they play Winston, but they have that ability now with Orisa and Zarya. Lunar has really kind of made that team a lot more formidable now, where you have 3 tanks instead of just 2. You're not planning for one. You're not planning on banning one consistently and dealing with the other. Now you have to deal with 3. And now when Syracuse bans your tank, how do you respond? It's going to be a really fun game, I think. And obviously, I think Syracuse is just going to pull this one out. We should probably just jump into score prediction, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Carson, as you know, I worked with this team very closely last year, and seeing them play up against Ohio State, there were some closer matches, as well as some of those matches where in scrims it wasn't as close, right? But at the end of the day, especially after seeing how Syracuse has played against some of these really, really strong opponents, I'm going to have to say I think pretty dominantly Syracuse is going to 3-0 Ohio State tonight.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong at all. With the new meta, quote unquote, with Maga, I don't think it's going to be that big of a change.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Syracuse 3-0, but elsewhere in the PEC, we have Kansas and Utah. That's a pretty important game for Utah, who is now 0-2 after a loss to Syracuse last week. I'm going to go Kansas in that one, actually, 3-2. I'm going to go with the underdog here from the Midwest. I just kind of don't know if Utah's got it in them right now. And obviously it's a good program with a bunch of talent. They can win any given week, but I think this is the given week for Kansas, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with Kansas is they are a very, very strong team. They have some very, very strong players, and they get into it. I mean, if you make Kansas mad, they're going to come at you 10 times harder. And, you know, sometimes some of those fights can get messy, but, you know, sometimes it really does come down to if you can get out of the messy fight on top, you're going to be the one who comes out on top. And, I mean, I kind of agree with you here, Carson. I think it's going to be a close match. I think Kansas comes out on top, though, 3-2, though. But Utah, I mean, this is going to be a big match for them. Obviously, if they end up losing this, this is not going to look great for them going to the rest of the PEC, losing to teams like Kansas. And so it's going to be a lot on them to start off their season 0-3 versus 1-2 here.
Yeah, this is kind of a game that's going to define the rest of their semester. Yeah. And I think for Utah, it doesn't really matter. I think even if you have a bad semester, you have next semester.
Yeah.
And they're a team that's talented enough to bounce back, go 0-8 this semester, and go 8-0 next semester. They're just one of those teams where it's any given week for them.
Yeah.
And it feels like at their worst, it's a coin flip. And that's always a good way to be. But elsewhere, I think we are talking about two a little bit less close matches, Baylor and Boise. I wouldn't be surprised if Baylor takes a game actually off of Boise because they've been playing surprisingly well. But I'm going to go Boise 3-1.
I think Boise potentially 3-0s this, just because, like you said, I mean, Baylor has the opportunity to win this, but I don't know if they'll be able to take it out on top. But at the end of the day here, Carson, looks like match is getting ready to go here. I believe the bands were Maga and Kiriko.
Yes, they were. So we're probably going to see Zarya out of King Donut, if I remember correctly. They have not played, of course, in a little bit of a while, but Zarya was the main pick for the other side. It's going to be Orisa, which is funny because Lunar's not playing Orisa. For our last match, Nebraska-Minnesota, I'm going to go 3-0 Minnesota, excuse me.
Yeah, no, I'm not even going to argue with that one. I think that's a pretty confident bet there. But yeah, I mean, quickly looking over these teams here, Zarya's been playing a little bit in scrims for Syracuse. They've gotten a lot more confident on this character, and, they can make it work over the Orisa. She'll boom really, really fast because of that beam, because of the amount of pressure that the Zarya can put in. B-Dog getting to play this Baptiste, Saint on the Lucio. They're going to play fast, and they're going to play for the brawl here, which... I mean, we see Juno Brig coming out for Ohio State, and this is what I was talking about, right? They might try to run it, but at the end of the day, the brawl is going to be so much stronger into this composition. Even though the Brig is there, the Genji and the Soj are no match for the Cass and the Tracer here. Syracuse is just going to run them down as much as they can.
Yeah, you'll be looking for that orbital array from Juno down the road, and the ability is obviously charging very quickly. I am going to get Saint for that first elimination, but second blood will come for Azer as they get Lauai, and that Juno falls down. We talk about that survivability, but out to 50% already with such a short life. B-Dog gets one, but Ayum gets two more, and Syracuse is kind of already out of this team fight first roll. And it's going to be Ohio State's point off rip here in match one.
Yeah, a little messy coming out from Syracuse there. They crashed out fast, but they weren't really on the right targets. They kind of split, and that's really, at the end of the day, what Ohio State did is they switch over to the Ramatra here. A little bit stronger brawl coming out from them into this Zarya. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Lunar switching off here, but not yet, as Mac is going to come out with the Deadeye, try to force some space out for the rest of Syracuse.
Mac statistically the best DPS in the entire conference. Lunar gets Mafia. That's the DPS down. They have Ram on point now, trying to move forward. Donut trying to get out of it, and is just kind of going to take all that damage right there, as tanks do. For those not familiar with Overwatch, the tank is the central point of the push. Lunar gets one DPS in the back. Now with only one, Mafia comes back. This time is Tracer, and Azer going to get Lex. And that's the support down. This should be a big start here for the Orange, as Azer in that back line as both supports are down. King Donut gets one, but won't last long without any help on that healing side.
Yeah, Junewalt comes out for a little bit of stable here. Some great stall coming out from Ohio State, but Syracuse, they just need to clean this fight up. I really liked what I saw coming out from Lunar earlier, where the team, they were fighting King Donut on point. Lunar walked past and said, I don't really care about you, and went to go kill the back line. Very well played coming out from him, keeping that charge up as well. But Junewalt coming out from Ohio State, really good for Syracuse here, using the pulse and the window early on. You might see an early grab here, try to force out this Brigitte from the side of Ohio State, but Syracuse may also just try to do a dry fight here, try to play safe and then really hard kite back to point. But early grab, and there it is, forcing out the rally, and Syracuse just going to stabilize and back up here. Perfectly executed from them, and now they just need to not die here. Saint does have the beat, but Azer does fall.
See what they can do. It's the beat for Saint that comes out immediately as Lunar gets one Mafia. Obviously got the other got Azer in that other end. Trying to go in for the ult. That's kind of poor usage by Mac there as Mafia gets two. And here comes the Ram ult as Syracuse can do nothing but watch. Azer just has to hide as Saint goes down as well. And it's an okay stall from Syracuse, nowhere near how Ohio State did it. But despite the ult disadvantage, Syracuse goes down and they try not to stagger, but Azer ended up living too long.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good stall coming out from Syracuse. The ult coming out from Max, switching over to the Soj instead of the Cass. Much better in terms of frontline pressure, but a little bit risky, right? You still want to keep that ult percentage if you can. Doesn't do so. Falls back over to the Sojourn now. But looking forward. The overclock comes in from Yum as well as Mafia with the pulse bomb, but no connects.
Yeah, I don't think IM even did damage there. It's a rough one in the choke point. Syracuse knows better and just sits there, waits it out as Lunar pushes forward into King Donut, who's getting low, but no supports there in the other end to really prevent there as Lunar and Saint get 2. King Donut gets 2, but that's a bit of an overextension. Bit of a reverse here as Lunar has nobody to protect them other than Saint. Backside, Azer trying to flank. It's really a weird situation as everybody just kind of flip-flopped and Syracuse was suddenly playing defense on the point they didn't have. King Donut trying to stall now in overtime. They need to get this point or stay on it at least to keep this game alive. Syracuse in danger of going down 1-0 on capture point here in the first half. Azer on point with that invulnerability from Bastion, Baptiste on the top, B-Dog and a headshot Mafia. That's a good pick for the Orange, but Juno back into the fight. King Donut goes down despite 2 supports there. It's a bit of a rout for the Orange, who finally get the point back at overtime.
Yeah, having to use that window there is a little scary. Obviously, the grab, the overclock, and the beat will be in the favor of Syracuse, walking into really just a rally, and the Ramatra ult here coming out from Ahase, so nothing much really coming from them. But Syracuse, they need to make sure that they don't die early like they did on that last fight with the grab. They're going to fight this one on point. I like this a lot better from them. Really force out the brawl, give Mac the ability to hold that angle and potentially get some value. But Mac falls, but the Tracer duel is up in terms of Azer.
Here comes Surge on the other end. The ult doesn't do really anything to King Donut, who just kind of walks away. Lack of value there, but it does get 2 ults out. And see if Syracuse can survive them. That's going to be the key to this one. Azer has ult backing off on the other side of point as they watch. Lunar gets 1, but goes down in the process. No tank is bad, but no support, I'd argue, might be worse as Saint goes down as well. Azer gets caught by Mafia. B-Dog gets 1. Mac gets another with the overclock. Trying to get 1 more. They have to move on to site for overtime. It's double overtime. Whoever captures this one wins. King Donut gets Mac. And it's the ball from Lunar to keep on and try and get some time out of it. Not the ideal situation, but have to do something here to stay alive. King Donut gets Saint as Syracuse still just trying to stall, waiting for that team to come back. As there's no healers down on point as B-Dog and Saint go down. Lunar gets shredded. Last one on point is Azer trying to keep it alive. Overtime here, and it's going to be extinguished as Syracuse loses their first point all game, or all season rather, in capture.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with Syracuse, right? Like I mentioned, these two teams scrim a lot together, and it's always very, very close. They know how to play up against one another, and that is something to keep in mind here. I will say, right, Syracuse, a team that they have very good adaptability, but it's always a little slow on the draw, and that's something that Syracuse has always struggled with in the past. But the strength with that is, even though they're typically a little bit slower to adapt, when they adapt, they do a really, really good job at keeping that adaptation in their favor, right? And now Syracuse switching over to the Orisa, the Freya going to be a lot of frontline pressure into this Ramatra as well, especially with her buff, by the way, the major perk going to give her 8 ammo back instead of 4, going to be very, very powerful. And this could be a big change for Syracuse. B-Dog on the Ana as well to really just send King Donut back and negate anything coming out from this Juno. I like this adaptation from Syracuse. Now it's time for them to play correctly.
Max struggled last week on the Freya, generally with just aim. I guess didn't really have the projectile speed down as Azer dashed off point and into the void. That is a rough shout there. Mac goes down to the back line. It's a flanking Juno. Syracuse has to get rid of the supports here, but the flank game just hasn't been where they want. I mean, Juno's just been standing back there with Tracer for such a long time. Lauai gets 1 more. As Lau gets B-Dog, Syracuse has to back off again. And part of that, I think, is B-Dog on Ana instead of Kiriko. As you see on the top there in the graphic, Kiriko and Mauga, the bans here.
Yeah, I mean, it does require B-Dog to play this a little bit more passive, and it's harder, especially into this Brig Juno composition where the tank can just run it down, right? Lunar, though, back on this Orisa, gonna be able to really make a lot more space into this Ramatra. They like this duel a lot, but a lot of damage being taken in the neutral. Azer and Matt going down really low, but now the fight's starting here on point here, Carson.
I truly believe one of the best Orisas collegiately, Lunar. Gonna have to move on here with the team. But a lot of it's going to come in through Lunar now. It's kind of making a target out of himself, which is really good there, I think, for the Syracuse squad. It nearly goes off. Good spear from their end. Here comes the Nano. As B-Dog gets 1 in the form of Mafia, there's a DPS down. Backside is Bridget. Can't get anyone, but everyone is forced to move off of point. It's a bit of an interesting situation now where nobody flipped and not much got done with anybody's ult there. But here comes 1 more. as Orisa can't get anyone with that, as Lex and King Donut get Azer and Lunar, and Syracuse going to have to back off again, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, there will be 2 kills here, though.
Support kind of on point right now, has a path to capture, but King Donut moves away from the ledge, which is the only real way I could have seen that win was a Saint boop off ledge.
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse, they're playing the comp correctly, but the problem is they're giving way too much just free value to Ohio State. They're able to get this damage number in, able to just put in so much pressure on a Syracuse so that by the time they walk in, they die. Just like that, Saint falls early to the ultimate. I mean, there is a trade up on King Donut, but one fight territory, Syracuse is going to need to do some last minute touches here into an overclock, by the way. Syracuse does have an overclock of their own, but B-Dog falling down immediately. That is the worst thing to happen. Your heals are gone. An early overclock as well comes in from Ohio State, and Saint dies as well.
Here comes Lunar on the Winston, kind of alone on point as Matt goes down as well. Azer got one in the form of their Sojourn, so no overclock for them. Has to be an overclock from the Syracuse side, which did not work out too well for Mac. Pushing forward, and not much can be done. Azer the only one on point in overtime, and this first game of Control, it looks like it's not going to go the way of the Orange. Still there on the other end. Saint has to try and find a way to stay alive a little bit longer. But overtime will end here as Ohio State goes up 1-0. And this would be one heck of an upset, folks. If you are not familiar, Syracuse the top of this conference right now. And Ohio State not at the top, but definitely a challenger. And 1-0 early as the Control game does not go well for the Orange.
Yeah, I mean, for Syracuse, they were struggling to really adapt to what Ohio State was doing, and that's just unlucky to see, honestly. But I mean, this is sort of the problem that Syracuse is going to need to make those adaptations to, right? Like I was saying, Syracuse, historically has not been the fastest to adapt, but when they do, they're very, very strong. We see that against teams like Boise State, against Utah as well, right? When they make that adaptation, very strong, and then they force the other opponent to play into them. But this one, Syracuse going down 2-0, they didn't really adapt that much in time, and, Ohio State, they really played that well. They baited Syracuse a lot, and Syracuse played into it. Like I mentioned a couple times, they took a lot of damage in that neutral fight before really anything was happening, before the engages were happening. A lot of these members from the side of Syracuse were taking some hits early on, just charging ultimates for the side of Ohio State, and they weren't able to engage onto that. They weren't able to press W because so much damage was taken. Ohio State, at one point in the fight on Lijiang, they were, I think, 70% up there, and 5 ultimates in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, I guess, also the lack of value gained from Syracuse ultimates right there. I mean, the comp that they're running actually doesn't have that much value in terms of ultimate. There's no real, you think of, I guess, Junkrat in terms of, that kind of ultimate with just how much power goes behind it, but a lot of it lies in how well the other team plays. You can play around all of Syracuse's ultimates, and Ohio State has done just that, to say the very least. It's going to be a long game for the Orange, but I think part of that is you gotta just hope Kiriko doesn't get banned A, and also maybe you ban Juno, or probably Juno, because that was one of their main problems. They could not get rid of Juno for whatever reason, who notoriously is not great at staying alive with the lack of health.
Yeah, and that's sort of a weird one to think of is, Juno hasn't really been that popular in the meta recently because of how fragile she is. And you have characters like Kiriko or an Ana or a Bap instead really force that brawl, and even when you see Syracuse, they ran the Ana direct counter to that Juno. They just weren't able to really find that value with the anti-nade, and because of that, Syracuse couldn't press W on that Orisa, which we saw. I mean, there was a lot of space that Lunar was taking. It was really, really valuable, but he had to use all of his util to get onto point and really make anything happen. We even saw that Nano go in as well, and Ohio State, they just backed up. Right, they used the speed ring from Juno, they backed up, they stayed safe, and that's what ended up happening. So, if you're Syracuse, I think banning that Brig or banning that Juno is going to be best case for you. Maybe save the Juno ban for a little bit later, right? Because they're not going to be able to run that Juno very likely or as efficiently if you ban that Brig early on. So that may even be your better pick if you're Syracuse.
I cannot believe I might potentially see a Brig ban, as that's not something I had in my bingo card today. The Orange, I guess just it's one of those counters that's just oh no, they're playing a full counter team, and it's not that any of those characters are direct counters to us. It's just that for whatever reason our team doesn't play that well against what they're showing, and I think right now it was one of those situations. But we're gonna move on to Push here, and the Syracuse squad's gonna have to put things together. And Lau and Lex, the 2 L's for that squad, were playing very, very well on that support side of things. King Donut did not really have any health problems. You
Yeah.
saw Ram have more survivability than like a titanium cube against a pressure washer.
Yeah, and speaking of Lex, right, a player that was not here in the PEC last year, and I mean on that brig, very very dominant player. I mean there were multiple times where we would see Lex would basically protect the president into Lao to keep that Juno alive, and that's kind of what you have to do if you're going to play with that Juno, right? Is you have to throw in everything you can, because if your Juno dies, you're basically over for that fight. And so very very well played coming out from Lex. And if you're Syracuse, right, I think if you can go back to this dive, that's going to be good. But obviously, if you end up banning that brig, you probably won't see the Maga, or you probably will see the Maga, right? Either way. So you've already banned the Maga. You probably can't run dive into that, right? Esperanza being the next map. Very easily a Winston map. Very, very possible.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be interesting to see what Syracuse rolls out on, because I don't think they're going to be comfortable playing the dive into a potential Maga.
Yeah, and I think part of it is going to be in their captain, Azer.
Yeah.
We talk a little bit about how important they are, and he didn't really have as much good of a game as you would probably hoped. Azer, kind of just a key point there with that with the Genji and the Tracer. From Huntington, New York, an information management major, the captain of this team, obviously, as we mentioned, has been so good this season, and I think shutting him down was the key for Ohio State there. But if you're a Syracuse fan, you're going to have to see him and Matt get going at some point here. They have been so good on that offensive front all season. I think that was the slowest they've looked, but honestly, I don't think it stays that way.
Yeah. And, as we take a look here into this composition, both teams looking for a dive here. King Donut on the Hazard. Right, we've seen some Hazard before from King Donut in Hazard mirrors against Syracuse, and it did not do bad. I mean, it was actually very, very good, but Lunar switching over to the Winston here. Mac on the Reaper. This is one that I was actually curious about. I was reading through the patch notes today, and Reaper got a lot of changes. Got a movement buff to one of his perks, a little bit less lifesteal. So the character itself is going to be very fast, but isn't going to get as much value in terms of sustainability. And I'm curious to see how Syracuse is going to play this, as they're basically just trying to brawl it out in the front, because you can't really go for the back line. They're on Kiri Lucio.
Yeah, and that's a really big elimination first. Mac gets King Donut, and that's a great start on push. The lack of a tank is so much more important in 5 than it is in 6-man Overwatch. I guess classic, if you'll call it. Azer gets 1, Lunar gets 2. And boy, the Syracuse Orange look as unstoppable as a storm in November to an iron ship.
And this is what you want to see from Syracuse, right? This was a lot cleaner and a lot more like what we've seen from them recently, especially on this dive, right? And that's what I was talking about, right? If you see them not on dive, it was a little scary, right? We saw that on Lijiang, but now back on this dive, back on a composition that they have really mastered the bread and butter of. And, off this Wu Yang as well, onto this Kiri Lucio variant, very, very powerful in terms of just keeping that aggression, keeping that speed, keeping that pressure onto them, playing in this corner, forcing out the Suzu already. Lunar does go down, but Azer being able to find this kill would be good. Won't be able to. Saint finds one onto Mafia. They try to get a checkpoint, but Ohio State throws all their bodies onto point, make sure they can grab that. Saint falls. It's just B-Dog alive. They may invest the rush, but not until B-Dog falls here, and Syracuse will lose that fight. But very, very well played from them, getting all the way up to that checkpoint. There are no forward spawns, but no ultimates used either from either team. And so this next fight is going to be a Q-fest of ultimates.
Yeah, King Donut has that violent leap, so it's going to be interesting to see how that gets played. As it's a pretty powerful ult, but it's kind of underwhelming if it's used wrong, and King Donut has really struggled with the usage of that ult this season, it seems, on the brief Hazard they've played. So we'll see what they can do here against the Syracuse squad. Lunar going to jump in and kind of get forced back by that boop. It's a very good boop by the Lucio Lex.
Ooh.
As Lau going to bring out the ult here. Lex has it as well. It's up top. It's an interesting ult as Lunar nearly goes down because of it. Lunar almost at no health as Lau gets B-Dog, who is kind of just forced in a corner trying to keep them alive, but everyone goes down. King Donut, Lex, and Lau gets 2. Lex gets 2, and it's a team kill with only one ult used. Excuse me, 2 ults used.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a simple play of ebb and flow coming out from Syracuse, right? The beat was used to try to keep Lunar alive, but into the pulse bomb, wasn't able to live through that. Azer wasn't able to connect his own pulse bomb, and Lau off the edge using the rush, able to really put some pressure onto Syracuse. They are going to contest before it comes out. Death Blossom comes out, is able to find one, can't quite find the other, but the rush will secure this fight for Syracuse.
Yeah, that's enough for the Orange. That's 1 ult usage and a free team fight win, which is exactly what you're hoping for. They're still in the lead. They have point. Lunar gets 2 more on the back line, and it's more Winston for Lunar, who has just been dominant all season. As the bans, by the way, were Brig and Genji. Genji kind of a direct counter to what Azer plays, and Brig kind of a direct counter to what Lex was playing last game.
Yeah, and you kind of expect to see that Brig ban, like I was mentioning earlier. It's going to give Syracuse a lot more freedom. However, Azer falls really low here. B-Dog is a little late to the fight, but is going to be there in time. They give the point back to Ohio State to look to try to contest this. They are going to jump in. Will be Lunar, has the primal if needed. No one should fall, but an early Wraith comes out from Mac, putting him in a rough spot.
It's going to be the primal here as they move him into a corner. Wrong place to be, wrong time, trapped, but you trapped him in the wrong spot. Lunar goes down due to 4 targeting, and Syracuse just take the point and run with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you get checkpoint here, that's a worth fight, and there it is.
Wow.
I mean, you're fine with that. You know, you used the primal into that, you forced out the hazard ultimate, and you got checkpoint, so everyone on your team is going to get a forward spawn. You're going to get a fast fight here. Oh, but B-Dog falling early. Oof. This could be risky for Syracuse if they choose to fight this, because B-Dog will not get this forward spawn.
I think they can just... B-Dog doesn't get the forward spawn, but I think they can wait a little bit and just let this one kind of come to the objective. And still B-Dog at that point. It's not too bad. It's not what they were hoping for, but it kind of prevents that constant pressure the Orange are looking for. Saint moving into that top end, it's going to be the hazard wall to keep them just kind of out there, but really has been a great hazard wall usage as Lunar goes down, and that could be the end of the team fight. If King Donut can't go down, and they really won't, that was their only real chance right there, as Lau and Yum get 1-2, as Mafia gets Saint, and Mafia gets Azer. The Orange are in a rough spot right now. Losing in terms of objective, as 5 minutes to go, halfway through, the Orange have just fallen apart a little bit on that defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse, they just weren't able to get that pinch over there in time, and because of that, Syracuse fell down a little soon. Wraith in early, going to go into the fight. The rush comes out, and now it's going to be Syracuse trying to get these kills, but very well played coming out from Ohio State. They're just going to run away, and they're not going to give any value to Syracuse. They're going to try to contest this back early. Mac falls low, needs to back up. Ohio State has control of the bridge and kills Mac.
Esmeralda's a great pick for Ohio State. It just kind of gets rid of them. And that's a weird trade. 1 goes, but Lau gets 3. Good support game for Lau as King Donut gets 2. And that has just been dominant right there. I mean, it's not much to say other than King Donut and Lau have just been essential, as well with Mafia as dominating the Orange. And by the way, Ohio State is now up 5 ults to 1.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, this is scary for Syracuse because they don't have to use ults. That's the thing with push here, right? They can use one. They can force something out from Syracuse. They can back up. Syracuse early with the tempo beat, going to try to find some kills. Finds Mafia. Lau will use the rush to get the team out of rain and will live.
I don't really like that use from Lau. It just kind of feels like a waste right there. Because they could have won a team fight with any of the other alts, and I think it just kind of creates a, we're going to stall and then potentially lose more value as Lex goes down. Mac trying to push forward with that Reaper side. With that Reaper pick, it's going to be really easy if they catch a support out in the wrong spot, and look at where Lau is, the wrong spot. See, that just felt like a waste to me. They still have 4 ults, but now they don't have point, and Syracuse is going to have the ability to push here with a forward spawn.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State still has the ult advantage here. Syracuse is going to be required to use ults to win this, and Ohio State knows that. They've been playing really good in kiting back every time Syracuse gets aggressive. The fade not going to be there for Mac, and Saint falls to the pulse bomb. Already down 1 member. The beat destabilized the rest of Ohio State here, and this is just going to be Ohio State killing everyone, but Primal is invested from Syracuse.
It has to come out here with 3 minutes to go. You need to find a way to delay and make sure they don't go any further. Syracuse has other ults on the way. They're going to use Death Blossom as well. That could be a team fight win. Lunar and Mac get 2. Lunar gets 1 more with the jump. B-Dog gets 1 more. And wait a minute, Syracuse has all those ults out. They lived through all those ults, and there's only Overclock, and they have an ult advantage and have point. How did they do that?
Welcome to Push, Carson, where things just switch back and forth like it's no one's business. And just like that, Syracuse does have the advantage here in Ultimate. But they don't want to give too much to Ohio State. The early overclock to try to find some value. Lau is going to try and get a kill here, but won't be able to.
Oh my goodness.
As Azer is going to fall low, but the rush comes out from B-Dog.
That is a really good rush from B-Dog. That just saved the team right there. Now the Ohio State side pushing. They're going to move up through the top, through that Kiriko ult that's still there. And Azer gets 2! 1 more for Lunar as King Donut goes down. And that's the push gone for that Ohio State squad. The Buckeyes can do nothing but watch. It's a team kill for the Orange, who set up perfectly by their captain.
Yeah, beautifully well played coming out from Azer. A two-piece on the pulse bomb is absolutely phenomenal, but Ohio State going to go fast here with Lau on the ultimate. Finds one. Lau is able to get Mac as well. The point only 3 meters away as we approach sub 2. Ohio State's going to win this fight pretty dominantly here as Lunar's going to go in, try to get some value. Mafia finds Azer. They're stalling the point so that everyone can get this forward spawn. But now, Ohio State back up in ults again. 3 compared to arguably 2 coming out from Syracuse, 1.5 minutes, and which means there's really only 2 or 3 fights left here, Carson. And you know, the thing with Ohio State is they've been kiting really, really well. They've been taking advantage of Syracuse getting aggressive, and they've been running away. And if they do that again, Ohio State may come out on top of this push map.
Ult advantage back in the hands of Ohio State, and that's a bad pick early. Mac goes down. Lunar might have to just invest this ult here because there's not much of a choice with a minute to go. B-Dog gets IM. That's a big pick early. As now both teams down their DPS. B-Dog goes down, though, to King Donut as Syracuse's dive is just kind of getting picked off. They're all separated, so Ohio State's doing a great job of targeting and finding a one player who's in the wrong spot. Lunar forced to invest that ultimate here, has to push that Kiriko away. Syracuse in a bad spot right now, but they're going to be able to contest and keep themselves around. It's a great ult from Mafia and a great ult from Lex, as the Tracer Bomb gets 2, just as it got 2 for us. And Lex keeps basically everybody around. 30 seconds remain. The Orange are in the wrong place entirely as they push the bot forward.
Yeah, and I mean, Carson, they wasted a minute before they invested ultimates, forcing Syracuse to use ults first, and now a great push coming out from Ohio State. I wouldn't be surprised if they wait for an early beat or an early rush coming out from the side of Syracuse, and they just run away and play for final on rush and King Donut. But an early pick on the Mac again is going to put Syracuse up.
Mac is really struggling here with this Reaper, and it's kind of partly in the Genji ban. Ohio State has been banning DPS, and there's a reason for it, as Saint gets 1, but Mafia gets Lunar, and that might just be it. In overtime, Syracuse kind of just has to stall until they can try and get their tank back, as that's the tough part about 5s. It's all in your tank. If you can't pick off their tank within 10 seconds, about 95% of the time, you lose that team fight no matter what. And it's going to be the same for the Orange, but here comes Death Blossom, but again, that lack of regen is really going to get him there as Mac goes down, Azer goes down, and Syracuse still struggling, has Lunar back on point, still overtime. Can they find a way out of it? Stuck in that trap in the ult as Lunar and Saint go down, and the Orange find themselves down 2-0, and I think it is a bad day. I really think it might be in that lack of regen for Mac, and it might be those buffs, my friend, because you know who else was buffed today pretty substantially?
Hazard was, yeah. Yeah, Hazard onto that Violent Leap, gains 30% lifesteal. There it is, that leap right there. That slashes into B-Dog. 30% lifesteal instead of the, I believe, 20% that it was. And that's a massive increase. I mean, it forced Lunar to get the regen bubble, right, coming out from the Winston perk instead of the other one. And you know, you're forced to play into that because now you're forced to sustain the dive coming out from Ohio State. And I mean, Syracuse wasn't playing wrong in any means, right? They were trying to control that tempo. They were using ults early. They were taking advantage of the fights. But the problem was, right, a couple times, 1, a member would get picked out really, really early, or 2, Ohio State said, you want to ult us? Fine, we're backing up. And that's exactly what they did on 2 or 3 separate occasions, right? On their checkpoint side, they saw Syracuse use an ult, they backed up, and they took the fight again. And even if they lost that fight, they got to take another one and force Syracuse out of 1, potentially 2 ultimates. The ult advantage in terms of Syracuse was really never there outside of that 1 or 2 fights that we saw, Carson. At the end of the day, though, Ohio State had the ult tempo the entire 9 minutes of this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really rough start for the Orange. Down 2-0 now. You have to enter this with a whole new mindset. Syracuse, the ult wasn't there. The new additions, Mac and B-Dog, really struggled with the survivability of staying alive at the start of those team fights. For whatever reason, they just couldn't really find a way. We move now on to Hybrid after push here in Game 2. And it'll be Flashpoint and Escort to remain. But it's not what you're hoping for from the Orange, who are down 2-0 in what would be a substantial upset.
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse, they need to make some changes here. And like I said, adaptability is a strength that they have, but it takes some time to get there. And I mean, if you're Syracuse right now, what you need to start looking for is, 1, when we're using our ultimates, right? What are we trying to gain value from? Because right now I'm seeing a lot of value, and they're trying to ult and kill. Ult and kill, ult and kill. That's not getting you anything, right? Ohio State knows that you are going to potentially win a lot of these ones. I mean, You have the top 1 and 2 players in terms of kills in the PEC. They don't want to take those 1v1s, right? So they know that every time Syracuse is going to use an ultimate ability, that they're going to look for the kills and they're going to back up. And that's what we saw from Ohio State. So one, what are you using your ultimates for, right? That is something you need to ask yourself. Are you using it for space? Are you using it for tempo? Are you using it for kills? Or are you using it to bait out something from the side of Ohio State? And two, reset. Right? Relax yourselves, reset a little bit. What are you trying to do in terms of your fight itself, and who are you going on? Because a lot of those times, right, you would see a player like Mac or a player like Azer, like Saint, who would, get a little bit too aggressive. They get a little bit too far and they get picked out early. You can't have that happen in this dive, and you need to be a little bit more careful on that. Those are the two biggest things I think Syracuse needs to worry about going into this potential 3-0.
You have to avoid a 3-0 here if you're the Orange, obviously, if you want to win. So Watch Point Gibraltar will be the map they play on, and not one I think I have seen except the start of last year. Gibraltar not played too well. It was technically in the competitive map pool, I believe, last season. Not played much except by a few teams, but I think specifically Kansas and Ohio State. I wonder if it's their pick. But it really works into a Hazard well, and it really looks into a Maga well. So Syracuse kind of is a situation where what do you have here? What can you really choose to do? And I think maybe a Brig ban would be something that I would go for again if you're the Orange, as Freya is the ban for Ohio State.
Yeah, Freya banned for Ohio State. Hazard was the ban for Syracuse. And so, I mean, you're banning that Hazard. That's fine, right? You try to force them onto this Winston mirror. Syracuse, in terms of Gibraltar, right, last year, phenomenal record on Gibraltar. I mean, they really only, I think, lost it to
Boise.
Yeah, Boise, right? And so this is really, really good for Syracuse, right? They're trying to really force Ohio State, because that's the thing with Ohio State. We've mentioned it before. I mentioned at the start of the broadcast. These teams scrim each other, Carson. They know how each other play. They like to test the limits against each other. It's patch day. This is typically when they like to scrim each other, because things are always a little bit messy, right? This map, Gibraltar, you never really run something random here. Now, Ohio State might run out on their Maga comp. They might try to bunker down, and that is something that maybe you expect if you're Syracuse, right? But otherwise, this map typically forces the Winston on a Brig mirror. And that is something that Syracuse is very, very strong in. They've played it before. They were very strong in it last year. They beat Ohio State in it last year. They're forcing the pure macro, nothing crazy change. And that is something I think Syracuse needs. They need this to shift it back in their momentum, because at the end of the day, right, Syracuse, we've seen it the past couple weeks. Their team play is phenomenal, but tonight we haven't seen that, and I think they need to get that back in their favor.
Yeah, they need to find a way to really collect themselves, and I think that's a really good job by Ohio State. It's kind of a team that you're always a little bit worried about. You look on the schedule, you go, yeah, we should beat Ohio State, especially for this Overwatch team, and then you're like, well they scrim every day. Like, the only reason they didn't scrim this week probably before the game was because they were playing each other for the game, and it creates a monster where you have a team that's been playing you every single day for like almost the past four or 5 months, where it's just like now you are playing on even field despite having maybe a better team. They know what you're going to do. They know how to play you. They're used to it. You've been playing basketball with these kids in your backyard since you were 8 years old, it feels like, and now you're all adults and they've been playing. They know what you're going to do. They know you don't have a left, and that's kind of the big problem here with playing a team so much, is you get situations like this where now Syracuse is in a really rough spot. They don't have a lifeline. They're down 2-0. They can't afford to make mistakes anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of the bans, right, it's there's a safe ban on the Hazard, right? You don't want to deal with that lifesteal. That's fair. I was looking at the patch notes, and I'm like, this could be scary, for any team that wants to play Hazard. Lo and behold, King Donut runs out on Hazard and just lives forever. But, the Freya ban coming out from Ohio State, a little bit more of like that safe ban, right? Just like, we don't want to deal with that character. She's got a good buff to her. We're not going to waste our time with that. And so, this really is Syracuse playing a game, playing a comp, playing a map that they know, that they love, that they have practiced so much on. This is the default sort of escort map in scrims. You're always running Gibraltar. It's almost always played in a scrim. Now that means Ohio State plays it consistently as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what the two teams come out on. And it's going to be different. Okay, let's talk about this, Carson. Let's talk about this a little bit. So in terms of what Ohio State is running, nothing too crazy. I mean, instead of the Winston, switch it out for a Diva. The Ashe is pretty interchangeable for a Widow or a Sojourn. The Ashe Echo, very, very very, very prominent, very, very powerful. The Wu Yang Kiriko. This is something we've seen from Syracuse before. It has strength, it has power, but Wu Yang was nerfed. Wu Yang got a pretty substantial nerf today. He does do a little bit more damage, but his healing got significantly nerfed. That wave perk, the major perk that comes back, significant nerf. 50% reduction now to what it originally was. This is risky for Syracuse, but Azer on the Genji, Mac on the Tracer. These players know how to play these characters. They are dominant on these characters, and now we need to see if Syracuse can run this and play it really well here. I'm curious to see how the Wu Yang is going to play into this from B-Dog.
Just a really poorly timed patch day for the Orange, who I think if they had a day to do it, would really have this game in their hands, but they just kind of have to play around it. Lunar down to low health already. We talk about how well they've been playing. Saint gets one. That's what you need. You need anybody on your team to go and find picks, and that's what Saint can do. Matt goes down again as Mafia has just been dominant in that Tracer 1v1. As Genji, they ban again for that Ohio State, or excuse me, Freya, that ban on the Ohio State side. Surprised we're not seeing more Genji out of Azer, who switches back as Mac was the one who went down. Excuse me. They switch out.
Yeah, I mean, Saint grabbing 2 here, right? We saw this a lot last year as Azer will fall to Lau. They're really giving away this car wash for free, and it's difficult. B-Dog finds Yum. It's trades on either side here, but what I was going to say is Saint, character, a player that played a lot of flex support last year. Syracuse crashes out here onto the Diva, looks to demech them, will win this fight. Syracuse's Saint, a flex support player that was dominant last year. Always one of those players that you saw on the kill feed. Very, very powerful. Now gets to play the Kiriko here. Gets to be very aggressive. Gets to play for those picks. And we've seen 2 and 3 already from Saint to help win this fight. I think if Syracuse wins this, Saint is probably the reason why. I mean, the amount of kills he can get on Kiriko is going to be insane.
Saint is an absolutely dominant flex support, and I would go as far to say Saint is the best flex support in the conference. I don't feel like it's even, if you look at last year, I don't even feel like it's a contested thing. As Mac almost gets one, trying to get one in the other end, they switch the other Tracer off to try and get a hand in that Tracer duel as they throw the pulse, try and good predict. But it helps because it's distracting as their entire team goes down in the back end. Saint and Azer go down, Mac goes down as well, the Mafia. They're trying to push it together here. Could be big if the support goes down. It's very good. B-Dog gets to at a very opportune time, and now it's a 2-on-2. We are playing a different game mode here right now, as it's only one support and one tank remaining for each team, but it's going to be the advantage to Ohio State, who's going to get their players back. Rhett going to be the support now as Laz gets sat and going to be playing Lucio.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see coming out from the side of Syracuse here. They have Saint with the ultimate. They have the ability to get some value here. The pulse goes in as well as the primal, but not going to be able to find something yet. The beat comes out to stabilize the side of Ohio State, but still no kills as Mafia falls. A great one for Syracuse.
It's Lunar and Mac getting one, but B-Dog goes down, and the lack of a support could be pretty dangerous here. King Donut has to just kind of continue pushing that team forward, and part of it's going to be getting rid of the tank as Lunar goes down. Bit of a rough situation. King Donut has to go down. Big ops from Mac, but not enough damage gone through there. King Donut has to back up, not enough support. Here comes the blade from Azer. Swings, misses one at Kiriko, jumps back up top, forced to get out, and that is a tough one for Azer, who just gets put in a bad position. The entire team knows to run away. Good stick as Rhett goes down. Syracuse going to delay that push just a little bit longer. Only 40 seconds remaining in this half. Saint and Mac, they get one each, as we just mentioned. Mac got that pulse bomb off as they went down. Lunar in that back end almost got rid of the support. Jumping forward, Lau it low. Mafia and King Donut, though, get 2. Mac gets Lau. No support remaining right now on point 4. That Ohio State squad as the mech comes out. Self-destruct. Good timed Winston bubble. It gets deleted right before the ult goes off. Mafia goes down. Razor gets booped by Rhett. Mac gets the melee on Rhett. The supports are gone right now. And on the other end, they will get the checkpoint in the chaos despite the advantage. B-Dog unable to do much there. Is that a Joker skin on B-Dog?
Yes, it is. From Persona. That is exactly what that skin came from, Carson. From the update that came out of about a month ago. But yeah, a lot of skins of the game from that little collab.
I don't know how I missed that. That was what I thought I would have, but poor start from the Orange there. They kept them pretty low, but now it's 2 minutes to get through one of the more difficult sections of the entire map. It's a good job to waste time. Max, gonna jump down there and try and get rid of Mafia. And that Tracer duel is gonna be a big thing right now to kind of determine how this match gets. But Lau goes down. That's a very good start. Mac has to find a way. They waste a pulse on Mac, who is not caught yet in that lower end. Syracuse up top trying to do more. Is they're going to get rid of the mech, and Yum, DPS goes down. They're trying to transfer it away, as King Donut goes down fully. Very good start for the Orange, and that's going to waste at least 30 to 40 seconds for Ohio State.
Yeah, Rhett also on this Wu Yang as well, right? Here's the strength with this Wu Yang, especially recently, right? The healing numbers definitely came down a little bit, but the damage numbers went up. And so it gives both of these players the ability to really take these 1v1s and really finish off some of these low HP targets, such as the Genjis and the Tracers. But B-Dog falls low, so a lot of your damage is going to disappear here. I'm going to be surprised if B-Dog finishes this round with a lot of damage. Mac going to jump into the regen bubble from the Winston, stay alive a little bit longer here. Goes in for the kill, but needs to run away. King Donut D-Mech, that's great, but Mac will fall.
Rough situation for Syracuse. You have ult. They can't really push without mech. Here comes the Nano. They're going to push into that other side. Winston has Primal. They might go Nano into Primal. Excuse me, that wasn't Nano. I don't know why Winston turned blue. As B-Dog gets two, might as well be Nano. Lau gets Saint. B-Dog gets a third. What are we doing, Wu Yang? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is that strength from Wu Yang, right? The nerf came in, but the damage is there, and that is what is so powerful with this character, is that damage is there, that damage output that can just really put so much pressure and get these kills early on, right? And you can just track it through walls. Doesn't matter. You can just throw it around, and you can get some really good kills. So this is good for B-Dog, right? Compared to Rhett as well, who hasn't really been getting the value here. The wave comes in as well as the rush. Syracuse needs to find a kill with this Blade soon.
B-Dog can get ult so much faster now that they can do more damage too. Blade here as Lunar gets one with Primal Rage. Mac gets another. Here comes that push delay with 10 seconds remaining. This could be it for Ohio State if they can't find a way to stay alive. Mafia goes down to Mac. That's a great pick. Here comes self-destruct from that Diva. Mazer trying to hide from it as Lau gets Mac in that chaos. Rush on point, but it's really only two. Here comes Blade trying to get one. Lunar gets one. Excuse me, Lau goes down, trying to go up. One more, gets rid of the mech. Overtime, 4 meters remaining. Syracuse trying to hold on for one more moment. Saint and B-Dog get two in that back end. Overtime creeping to the end, and Syracuse holds them 1-0.
That's a really good hold coming out from Syracuse. A little scary there nearing the end. Like you said, Carson, second point, definitely the hardest point on Gibraltar to really get through. So Syracuse holding that there is very, very good for them. Obviously, they need to get through Car Wash, that first point, that very difficult point on first to get through. But if this is how Syracuse is going to play the rest of this game, I think they have a very strong, very, very capable chance of bringing this back in their favor, right, with that Wu Yang, with that damage output coming out from B-Dog, and now they just need to keep that going here. From the side of Ohio State, this is where things get a little dangerous, right? If they choose to bunker down on this Maga, not a banned character, right? The Frey and the Hazard are banned, which means the Maga bunker is still alive here from them if they choose to do it. So I'm curious to see what they're going to run out on. Syracuse not going to make any changes to their roster, as they're going to walk out on exactly what helped them get this stall here on second point. The side of Ohio State, a little bit more interesting, playing more of a poke with the Diva Tracer pinch. This is something that Syracuse is going to need to be aware of, because this is where B-Dog can fall very, very fast. B-Dog is the weak link in terms of these 5 characters. The Wu Yang is going to be the one that can be taken out the fastest, especially if Syracuse chooses to keep the poke. Ohio State is going to be able to keep that poke with the BAP, with the Alari, and with the Cassidy. The Diva and the Tracer are going to run down B-Dog. Syracuse is going to need to be able to hold that.
Yeah, that's going to be a good start. We'll see, though, because Wu Yang, B-Dog had a very good job of survivability last time, and the increased damage makes Wu Yang a harder target, because Wu Yang can kill you now. It really feels like that's a bigger section, because less healing means that they're alive longer still, so I don't know if it's really that bad of a nerf right now for Wu Yang, at least in this current situation. We've seen, obviously, limited play. Car Wash immediately taken by the Orange, but Lunar and Saint are both down, so not a great start really anyway, as Donut stuck in that back end. Syracuse kind of just playing around 2 DPS and a healer, as they're just going to push the point all the way into Car Wash, back off. Hopefully lose nobody as B-Dog stays alive. That's a very good job from the Orange, despite losing a tank and a healer.
Yeah, I mean, putting this right here in the middle of this bottom choke is going to be good for them. If they can get an early pick, they'll be able to find the fight. They dive in, they look for something. King Donut lives, though, but Mac falls to Lau, and also Lunar very low on HP here. B-Dog needs to get out alive. The Tracer there, it's going to be looking for the fight here. Can't quite find it, needs to get out, hit once, just needs to live. It will be B-Dog with no util on this point.
Stuck between a rock and a B-Dog place. That's not where I want to be. B-Dog has been lethal right now on Wu Yang. Mac trying to move in, trying to get rid of that Tracer in that car wash section. They're finally pushing the point forward a bit more. 2 minutes and 40 seconds remain for the Orange to get it to checkpoint 1. Lunar up top with the rest of the team. They're trying to get picks as Mac goes down, but B-Dog able to get Mafia, and it's a Tracer trade. On that other end, moving up top, King Donut trying to push them away. Here comes Rush from the Orange, though. Window from Lau on that other end. It's going to be a tough scene right now, but nobody stuck into that corner just yet. They waited a little bit too long, and I don't think got enough value. Yes, they did. Saint got aggressive and goes down to the window. You can't do that. That is a really rough decision from the Orange right there. That might cost them a little bit of time, and a lot of bit of time if they can't find a way to break through right here.
Yeah, Ohio State here has 4 ultimates in their favor. They can go aggressive and they can secure another fight win if they want to. Syracuse as well, if they want. They will go. B-Dog gonna pop it on to Azer. Looks for one. Lunar falls. Azer finds one with the blade. Deflects it, I believe. Oh no, never mind. Gets hit. I apologize. And will be falling down, but the deflect would have won that fight easily there, Carson.
Counter, really, really good job there from the counter ult from Rhett. Sunstrike gets rid of Azer mid-ult, and that would have just been it. Azer going to switch to Mei. Things not going well for the Orange when that is the case right now. They've played a lot of Mei before, and I will say that we saw it last week, and it worked out really well, but it's kind of just we're throwing stuff at the wall right now, seeing what sticks.
Yeah, I mean, Azer does have the ability to sort of one-shot or sort of one-shot dink a lot of these characters and get them to back up. Mac finds Rhett early, a very good pick. Lunar has the ultimate as well to stabilize. The lamp used early. Lunar is in with the primal, finds Lau. Doesn't matter. Syracuse very easily could win this, and just like that, Yum decides to pop the Deadeye. Doesn't find any value there, and now it's just stragglers coming out from Ohio State as they're going to need to back up and live, and Syracuse should be able to cap this point. And we'll have about 3 minutes, to get over to the end of this point. This could be difficult, but Syracuse, the Mei, it's a weird change, but like I was saying, I mean, you have players like Saint and Azer, they both get a headshot and someone falls down.
Hey, you know what, man? Whatever works, and Yum already at low health again because of this Azer Mei pick. King Donut low again. Mech going down would be huge here. But still, ult remaining, King Donut finds support just in time. The Orange really needed that pick right there. Window coming out from Baptiste. I'm not really sure about that angle. It's less than ideal as all 4 Orange are kind of under the section and cannot be targeted by that window. Mafia coming down with that Tracer. They're trying to distract them and shoot from the top. Bit of a shooting gallery. Iyoung nearly goes down. Mafia gets Azer. That's a rough pick early as the captain goes down for the Orange. Mafia gets 2. It's a melee fest. They are boxing and winning. Support goes down in the form of B-Dog. We mentioned who's going to have a struggle with survivability.
Yeah, this is the downside with Azer on the Mei. There's a lot of cart pressure, able to sort of just sit there and put in a lot of damage, but the problem is you really don't have the ability to fight with the rest of your team. You give B-Dog a little bit more sustainability by sitting on the Mei here, but you have to be very, very careful. The Rising Tide is going to be up and ready for Wu Yang, and for B-Dog here does use it onto Lunar as they jump in. Barely lives.
Does almost get everyone on form of damage up there, and it keeps it really well. Diva now stuck bottom using that ult. Mac goes down as well as Saint, but there's still B-Dog in that other end who's now struggling in that top end with staying around. They're really, really struggling right now. The Orange are just not able to beat this Diva comp on defense right now, and only a minute 40-second remain. They have less than 30 meters to go, but it's just a situation right now where what do you do for the Orange? It's under 21 meters to go. It is a really tough situation. They can't seem to find any pick where they need to, and Ohio State just has that distance up there. Mac going to need to find a support with a pulse bomb right here. Pulse bomb comes out for Ohio State and does nothing.
Yeah, doesn't find the connect here, but Mac looking to get greedy here, pushes in. Lau has the window, but a lot of members fall low here. This could be good for Syracuse. The stick goes on. King Donut out of Mech. Rhett uses the Sunstrike, finds one, will be Yum. Lunar finds Rhett though, and this could be it. Syracuse killing the final members of Ohio State. They're going to have 1 minute to push this on. Azer has ult to live this, but I don't see a contest coming in from this side of Ohio State.
Woo!
Shot down. Lau is going to get frozen, and Syracuse not out of this one yet, Carson.
They're going to have to be reverse sweep if they win this one, but there's step 1 of 3. That was way too close for the Orange if you're sitting there on stage, but a win is a win, my friend.
Yeah.
And Air Lunar, my goodness, how'd you like that flight? All 3 ult kills in the air with 1 on the end, but Mafia has just been a thorn in the Orange side, and you're about to see it here in this play of the game. I mean, they have been so good all game, and really, really just one of the biggest issues right now. I think Mafia might be one of the best DPS in the conference, just purely based on this showing here.
Yeah, I mean, whew. Mafia has done some crazy plays so far in these 4 maps here, Carson. And, like, here's the thing. I know you have 2 Tracer players if you're Syracuse, but we've only seen Mafia on Tracer, right? Maybe you throw in the Tracer ban. Maybe you do something like that, right? Because I understand Tracer is so powerful right now in this meta, and I know that both Mac and Azer have some great plays on that character, but Mafia has just... I mean, there's no argument here, has gotten more value on the character. And you have to be careful, because if you continue to let players like Mafia get that value on that Tracer on a map that is not very typical, right? We're on Ohio State's pick, right? That's the problem with being down 2-0 is you give a lot of value to Ohio State because now they get to pick whatever they want, something they've scrimmed, something they've practiced. And we still haven't seen the Maga come out yet. Right? And so it's possible that if they choose to walk out on this Maga here or back on the Hazard, you can't ban either of those characters, and Syracuse is going to need to make some very fast adjustments. And, you know, the May did some good value on the attack there, but is it going to keep that value if there is going to be a Hazard or a Maga going into the fight?
As Saint, after a typical round win as his formation, team is still in high spirits, as you can see back there. Azer has been one of the key elements of this team keeping mental, and I think that's part of the reason there. They're feeling good down 2-1. They know they have the ability to beat Ohio State these next 2 matches, and I don't think they're going to feel horrible if they don't. I think if they lose today, they'll be like, darn, guys, that was rough, and then move on. This team is very good mentally. They've matured a lot since last year, and Syracuse is going to move on from tonight no matter what, and this might be a little bit of cope now that I say it, but they have been very matured. This team has the ability to win this. They have the ability to move on and go 7-1 for the rest of the year, and maybe 15-1 with how good they've been playing. And obviously, you're calling that a bit early, but Syracuse has been on fire, and this is no different right now. I mean, you see them. Good teams find a way to win, and that was finding a way to win. Yeah,
that's the biggest thing, right? When you're down 2-0, is you need to keep in mind, right? You cannot freak out. You cannot, let your mentals get the best of you. You have to stay engaged. You have to stay in the game the whole way through. I mean, players like B-Dog getting 3 pieces, players like Saint getting 2, players like Mac and Azer are able to get their picks as well. Lunar keeping the pressure and the space onto the enemy team. This is what you want to see, right? Everyone's still doing their jobs on the side of Syracuse and keeping that going for the next 2 maps. That is going to be what it comes down to. And this team, they can play long games. They played them before. Last year, we made a lot of jokes, right? That team did nothing but go to Game 5s, right? They have no problem if they have to go to another Game 5 here, right? They have 0 problem with it. They have the mental. They have the capacity to do it. And so Syracuse, fully possible, but it's going to be curious to see sort of what they go into next, right? On to Flashpoint, how Syracuse is going to go about this, who is going to be picked, right? Who's going to be banned, and what adjustments Syracuse is going to make, because obviously that may, I think it's more of like a Band-Aid temporary solution for Gibraltar. I don't think it's going to really work long term. Oh, we're going on Suravasa, which I think is the first time we've seen this map. Yeah? Ever on stream? Yeah, it would be ever. Yeah. I love this map. I've started getting back into playing the game this summer. Suravasa is fun. Suravasa is unbelievably silly. And you know what? I think there's an underrated element in the modern age. Of team play when it comes down to the end. You talk about being enduring and being hardy and all these things and staying to the end and being able to survive. But I think Syracuse has them beat on whimsy. And whimsy is something that really goes a long way. It keeps your teammates around. It keeps your teammates in it when times are getting tough, when it's tiring, when it's 9 p.m. and it's like, boy, I just had a whole day. Now I got to play an Overwatch game. You're getting to 10 p.m. now, and you're like, okay, well, I'm still playing more Overwatch. But then you've got whimsy on your side. And so now you're like, oh, I'm playing more Overwatch. It's a lot of fun, and you have to find fun in these hard moments. And Syracuse, probably one of the best teams in the PEC at that. You see Jackson almost always there, and all the team follows him. It gets that blood moving, whether they see it or not. Like, they walk around after every game, and it helps. They have to breathe, and they have to find a way to keep in it mentally, and Syracuse has done a really good job at that, and I'm blaming it on whimsy. whimsy and delirium, there's a very fine line, Carson. And, if I'm sitting playing Overwatch for 3 hours, I don't know which one I'm leaning towards. But, you're not wrong, right? I mean, especially players like, Jackson Saint, who is, walks behind the prod booth and just has a good time, right? I mean, that's what this team is all about, is just having a good time and not letting it get to you, right? At the end of the day, still having fun come win or loss, right? And that's going to be the biggest thing. And so we have the bans to the next map, right, for Suravasa. Syracuse banned Juno. That's a safe ban. You haven't banned it yet, right? You sort of saved it to ban. Now is the time where you need to ban it. Ohio State, they chose to ban the Tracer, Carson.
Ooh. It's like a double ban for Syracuse.
I'm curious to see what happens here.
They've played Tracer every time.
Yeah.
But also, the Genji ban in Game 2, or Game 1, I'm not sure was a great call. Because once you have to go the distance, now you have to play Genji the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem. Genji is playable anywhere for Azer. Genji is powerful anywhere for Azer.
Yep.
And you're kind of getting into a situation now to where you are banning what has given you the most value. I don't know if they realize that or they recognize that Tracer has been the art and key of picking the back.
Yeah.
But feels like a double ban in my mind. Does he know is kind of the thing going in my mind. Am I missing something? But I think we're probably just going to see probably Genji and Reaper on Suravasa. It makes sense.
I mean, Carson, this is metagaming here, right? Ohio State, they're a smart team. They know that if they lose this map, Syracuse is going to get the first ban. They could be long-term protecting this Tracer.
Holy does he know moment.
This could be a situation where Ohio State's like, all right, guys, if we lose this, our Tracer's gone. So we take the hit now, and we keep her in map 5. It's a possible situation here, Carson.
I don't think any Overwatch team is thinking that far ahead, and I don't mean to say in that way. I don't think you don't play for the long game. That's not how you play. That's not how you win games. No winning team does that. And let me get that across.
Look, Carson.
Because then it's like, yes, we have Tracer back. And then now it's like, well, we just lost 2 games in a row, and now we're not feeling it anymore.
We've seen some interesting things. I mean, look, Ohio State ran out on Brig Juno on map 1.
They're a creative team. I'll give them that. If anybody would do it, it would be them. The Buckeyes are fun. They're creative. They're led by a guy named King Donut. And let me tell you about fun and creative. What am I looking at on my screen right now, folks? You can't see it right now, but we have the
Syracuse
team comp.
and Ohio State switch sides.
We have the unreal team comp. I don't know what happened. I don't.
Okay.
It's Suravasa, so keep in mind it's a very
here's what I'll say, Carson.
open map.
Yeah, here's what I'll say about this. If you pretend that the blue team is Ohio State and the red team is Syracuse, this is the comps that they would pick. But instead, we see a little bit of a Freaky Friday situation where the teams are deciding to switch up what they want to run. And I'm curious to see this. I mean, it's going to be a matter of, does Lunar force King Donut onto the Maga mirror, or does King Donut force Lunar onto the Orisa mirror? This is the first time we've seen Maga in a very long time, Carson, and this major perk, so it's going to be a perk that doesn't come around until the end of this first point, is going to be crucial to see. Mac on this Reaper, very, very typical. No Brig Juno, though. The Curie and the Lucio being, for this Maga comp, a little bit weaker instead of like the BAP, which you would see.
Why did Mac show up like that? Mac was off point the entire time and just appeared like a JoJo stand. Saint and Lunar get 2 as Mac gets rid of the tank, and that's just a free start for the Orange as Mac just kind of delayed it. And as you mentioned here, it's going to come towards the end, but Mac gets another one, and that's what I'm saying is I think Syracuse is better sometimes without that Tracer, especially on Suravasa where they don't play Tracer.
Yeah, I mean, this is very, very good for Syracuse to start off like this, right? And they're holding aggressive, but this is what got them in trouble in Esperanza, right? They held very, very far, they held aggressive, and they got picked out early. Syracuse, though, with this Maga, able to back up, very good from them, but the stun comes out from King Donut, and Mac falls early. That's your major source of damage onto the Orisa gone.
What a throw from that side, but here comes Rush very early to counter that, trying to deal as much damage as possible. Not much damage dealt, though, very early. It's a really tough sight as Rhett gets Lunar, and Syracuse goes down very quickly, as it feels like Mac is kind of what's going to be the make or break point for this Orange squad. And Azer goes down. We'll see if they play into it now. Lunar might just ult and switch to Orisa. But I don't really know here. It's kind of a confusing situation we're in.
It is, but Carson, the supports double ulted on this point.
Oh.
Ohio State has their beat, has their overclock, has their Terror Surge, and has Blade. Syracuse has overclock and soon to be Cage. I mean, if you're Ohio State, you're comfortable in terms of your ults, and this is another thing that got them in trouble on Esperanza. You get picked out early, you don't have ult advantage. Ohio State has the ult advantage here. Syracuse just needs to win one fight. Saint falls down early, and the overclock comes out, and Syracuse is going to fall to this fight. And this is just what I was talking about. Ohio State, they have the ult advantage. They went first, and now Syracuse is facing... Oh,
I mean, that's actually better for the orange right there. Prevents a stagger either way, but if I'm going to be honest with you, that's a waste of an ult from IM. I don't see any necessary use for that. They pick off the support and have, as it's gone, they know that if it's a 5-on-4, they almost win that 90% of the time. It's one of those things where Ohio State is not playing to how good they've been playing. They don't understand how much of domination they have in those certain situations, and the orange just can't have someone go down quickly. They're going to try and keep this point alive, though. Lau gets Azer, and Saint goes down as well. The Yum, here comes the surge from Orisa, and things just are not going well for the orange, who cannot find their way out of these early picks. So much damage. Ohio State is basically saying, hey, go get that guy, and then they kill that guy, and that's simply what's happening. They're pointing each other very well at the team. The tank kind of just focuses on whoever, but the rest of the team targets very, very well a certain individual and just gets rid of them instantly.
Yeah, Syracuse a full team swap here, keeping the Soj and the Genji, but on to Wu Yang, Kiri, Zarya. Zarya going to be able to shred the Orisa here. The Wu Yang, like we saw before, a lot of damage output. This is going to be good for Syracuse for them to hold their angles and really put some pressure on the King Donut here. Yum falling early to Saint on the flex support where he originated, and this is what you want to see from Syracuse, holding these angles, keeping the pressure onto this front line of Ohio State.
Here comes Rush for Ohio State, and that's a bit of interesting value they're going to grab out of it if they can find one, but Saint manages to back up and stay alive. And Azer, good deflect into Lau, as B-Dog has to back off, as we talk about survivability there. Azer gets one more, King Donut facing the wrong way and gets struck by the Genji. Moving forward, Orange going to have capture point here, as keep in mind how Flashpoint works, it's first to 3, as it's a best of 5, mini best of 5 within our best of 5 for game 4.
Yeah, just like that, right? Ohio State switching over to the Ramatra, so switching up against this Zarya here, and this is going to be interesting to see, right? We saw the Ramatra mirror earlier on. This was back on Lijiang, where we saw this. Mac is going to get rid of them immediately, though, and it's going to be a great win for Syracuse to get this up to probably 60%.
That'd be a very good start for them. Mac gonna punch Lau, but Azer goes down. Saint gets Mafia, though, as that Genji comes out, and that's something here. Mafia's not getting nearly as much damage as you would hope. Saint gets 2, my goodness. Might as well be playing DPS right now, but Mafia has not really gotten that much value at all. And I think that Tracer pick, you may have been right. Whether they realize it or not, I think you were right.
I mean, you never know here, Carson, and right, Syracuse has the ult advantage here, and this thing with Flashpoint is, you know, if you don't have the ult advantage, it's like point for point, and that's what we're kind of seeing from Syracuse, is they're probably going to win this point, as Ohio State has no ults to come forward onto it. Mafia falls down, Mac as well, the trades are there. King Donut alive and well, though, this character does not die.
Here comes Rush, though, for the orange. There's a wall there, but King Donut pushes out way too far, way too quick. That's a lack of space that King Donut didn't need to take, had no reason to get it. They were losing the point anyway. What was the point there? I don't understand, but it's those little mistakes that matter so much in a game like this, and King Donut has rarely made them, and you see when King Donut makes them because King Donut hasn't made them almost at all. They're very good. They're one of the best tank players in the entire conference, and they're showing it off right now. They have been leading their team excellently, and one minor mistake is all it takes for this Ohio State team to break.
Yeah, and just like that, Rhett falls to 0 HP here. Ult's up. Azer is going to get the Wu Yang buff here. Doesn't find the stun. The cleanse is out, but here comes the blade. Isn't able to find one and is punished for it. And now Ohio State going to get aggressive here with this beat. Going to walk on to point. Grab is ready for the side of Syracuse. Looks for it. Finds 4! And is going to probably get the team wipe here, Carson.
But here comes the rush. It's a great counter. They keep themselves alive, but Lunar still on point with the help of 2 support. They're finding their way back. Azer will be back in time to fight in this team fight if Lunar doesn't go down, but Lunar does go down. It's a really good start, but Azer gets 1. There's a lack of support. There's a good start. You have to get rid of the supports to the DPS first. Here's both supports gone. No take, but the orange could still win this team fight. King Donut goes down. Azer gets him on the point. 28 for Ohio State, but they're going to lose it in time as they get 34 before the Orange capture it.
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse, they were able to win that fight. They were able to win that team fight, but that's a difference maker right there. They could be up to 50% right now, but they gave Ohio State a lot of free percentage, and now they have ults once again in their favor. Mac, the only one with an ultimate for the side of Syracuse, and we may see an early rush from King Donut, but they're going to be taken down. I'm telling you, Carson, this Wu Yang Kiriko, it's got some weak healing, but the damage numbers coming out from this support line are truly the carry right now.
The best defense is a good offense, and you're seeing it here. Lau gets 2, Azer and Saint go down. It's the same situation, but the Orange still doing a good job of keeping that space despite only having 2 players. They push off finally. Ohio State realizes, hey, we have a 5-on-2 advantage, and finally gets Lunar in the other end. 68% for the Orange, and they'll get it out at 71 before Ohio State takes it back. No ult advantage for the Orange. In fact, it's quite the disadvantage. Down 3-2.
Yeah, and you know, Lau, those 2 crits onto the kills, very good, but Lau falls. Mac will be a good trade, though now B-Dog looking for someone Yum, using the overclock to try to find a little bit more sustainability for the team. Going to ult himself will be B-Dog. Azer falls, though, into this King Donut. Ultimate Annihilation finds them. Mafia pops the blade, but will be taken down by Mac, and now Syracuse is going to look for a fast retake onto this point.
They have to keep themselves together here. 1-1 tie. Trying to get that advantage back. The Orange pushing forward now. Have that in. That's a lot of damage onto the Zarya bubble. They try and get rid of it instantly. Back to 100. A lot of damage coming out, but the rush isn't enough to save Lunar. Azer has Blade. Interesting to see if we'll use it on overtime here. Will they go for it? King Donut gets 2 in Nemesis form as Lau gets 1. Azer gets another. Trying to solo the whole team, but goes down. The Orange no better than to waste anything on this point.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all coming out from Azer, right? You are not using that ultimate ability. You save it. You might be able to combo it with the grab later. But Rhett, very smart player as well, not using that beat. Now Ohio State, they aren't at an ult advantage, but they are at a point advantage. They can lose this if they want to and just save for ults, and this is one of those scary things on Flashpoint here. But Syracuse going to look to get a little bit aggressive as Ohio State's kind of just going to walk onto point, force them to brawl them, and that's exactly what they do here. Rhett has the beat. Are they going to use it early? Are they going to wait for an ultimate from Syracuse? Syracuse trying to force this out with a blade could be massive.
They're really just trying to force right out of it, I think, and I think for Zarya, you got to put out grab, and Lunar just has to wait, or rather Azer has to wait. Here it comes. Rhett not able to put down ult here. They're going to put it down right in time, and the combo doesn't work. Rhett gets Azer with a punch. Saint gets Iam, but in the end, Rhett gets 2, and Mafia gets 1 more. Mafia gets 2, and the Orange are getting pulverized right now. Turn to juice.
Yeah, see, that's what I was worried about, Carson, is, you know, with that combo from the Zarya and the Genji, the beat is just going to stop that from getting any value. You need to force that ultimate out. That didn't happen. Now Lunar switching over to this Orisa here. Really no ultimate for the side of Syracuse or the side of Ohio State, but Ohio State's Lau, and oh my lord! Yum is going to get overclocked just out of nowhere and also finds Mac, and if they win this fight using no ultimates, Carson, this could be it for Syracuse.
We'll see what they can do here. King Donut overextending to a point where they might have to use it. Nemesis gets Azer, and the Orange just can't win this fight. It feels like they're trying to save their ults, but they're just getting forced into it. King Donut, Iam, and Lau all save their ults. It's now a 3-3 ult kind of tandem there. Mafia doesn't have it yet technically. Rush. Moving forward, here's that early rush, and it's too late. It's too late. Lunar gets 1, but Saint and Mac go down, and this push is dead. Once again, the Orange have to win this site here, or it's game over. They're on site, have no ults anymore as Saint used the rush to get on, but they lose 1. Lunar goes down, nobody there to reinforce it, and the Orange are really in just a nightmare scenario. Overtime, they have overclock. B-Dog gets 1. Overclock stuck by that wall there. They have to touch, and they don't touch in time. The Orange go down. It's an upset for the Buckeyes, 3-1. And what was potentially a championship preview goes 3-1 way of the Ohio Valley.
Yeah, I mean, Carson, you know, at the end there, it was just the patience coming out from Ohio State. They won that final fight. They didn't use beat. They waited for Syracuse to use that combo onto that final point there. They used the combo. The beat comes out. They won the fight. And then they had ultimates, and they early ulted. Lau with that rush, that was the winner right there. That rush won Ohio State that game because it was so early. It forced Syracuse back. They weren't able to re-engage. It built the other 4 ultimates up for the side of Ohio State. And what Syracuse was supposed to do there, because they lost a member early, 4 ultimates for Ohio State. You can't win that. And, I mean, watching Ohio State play tonight, they played the game of baiting, and Syracuse walked into it every single time.
Yeah, that's a really tough one for the Orange. It's a loss that you're going to be thinking about for a very long time. And the reason is because you don't feel like you should have lost. In your mind, the Orange are going to sit there, and they're probably going to be like, okay, today was patch day. I don't think we even deserve to lose that. Because literally every single member of the Orange, their main got nerfed today.
Yeah.
All of them got nerfed. There was not a single buff in terms of what the main support idea is. So it's support there. All the healing got nerfed.
Yeah.
All the damage got buffed. But it's one that I think if you're the Orange, you can swallow because you're like, all right, that really sucked. That one's not really on us. We didn't get to practice because of fall break with the patch that came out this morning. So, as in the tale of the Edmund Fitzgerald, November winds came early. And the Orange have some unexpected weather to deal with in terms of patch notes, and they don't take the win here. Go down 3-1 to the Ohio State Buckeyes, who will surely be the favorite to win the conference now. Yeah,
and I will say this, right? When it comes to Syracuse's, they were a little bit of struggle in terms of that ult tempo, in terms of what they wanted to do with their ult, especially on Esperanza, right? If you're Syracuse, go back and look at that map, right? That's definitely the one you're going to gain the most value from if you're Syracuse. But the biggest thing from them, right, is that Wu Yang Kiriko composition. Right? I mean, Saint and B-Dog were just menaces on those characters on Gibraltar and even on Saravasa, right? So if you're Syracuse, maybe look into that composition a little bit more. I know Wu Yang really isn't in the best spot right now, right? But maybe look into that composition. Give the players that are able to get these kills, give them that opportunity, right? I remember last year, Syracuse did that very, very similarly where there was an Alari Ana composition, right? Just to give their players the ability to get those kills. Give that to your supports again, right? Give that capability to Saint and B-Dog. Even if it may not be the best composition to run, there was some signs of life there. And I think it's very, very possible that you can make that a very strong composition, especially on those longer range maps like Circuit Royale, like Gibraltar.
Yeah, and I just took a little look at the team over there. They don't seem that distraught.
No.
Losses happen. They're bound to happen. Everybody loses, it feels like. If you go undefeated in the regular season, it's pretty unlikely. As Steve Sarkisian said, unrelated sport, but the age of the undefeated champion is over. But I think that's going to be all from upstate New York. I've been Carson Cash, joined in the booth with Ryan Blankenhorn. Thank you very much for tuning in. We've got Valorant tomorrow against Ohio State. Tune in for that. The Orange take on the defending second-place team. We'll see you there, hopefully. But that's all from up here. Thank you very much, and have a great night.